And so here we are, my dear ones. Welcome into the sanctuary. It's good to be with you on this great Sunday as we move more deeply and fully into November. And in our organization, Centers for Spiritual Living, our focus this month is on prosperity consciousness. Prosperity consciousness. It's nothing new. You've heard this term before, and we've all come to classes. Well, maybe not all of us, but many of us have come to classes and studied prosperity consciousness and so on and so forth. But today, you and I are asked to take a deeper look at what it is to be the consciousness of prosperity and to get a deeper conviction about ourselves with regard to the consciousness of prosperity. And when you go to the dictionary and you look up the word prosperity, I love looking up words to see if there's anything I don't know in amongst all of the words or haven't come across before. Usually not so much, but at the same time reminded. So some of the words that jumped out were words like successful, thriving, flourishing, good fortune, abundance, and on and on and on. And these are terms we've heard before. We're all familiar with them. They're lovely sounding. They've got a nice energy. They don't disturb us. When we hear those words, they don't disturb us. We feel good about them. And we think to ourselves, well, maybe one day. Maybe one day. We have to stop that nonsense now. Today's the day you make up your mind. You stop the nonsense about maybe one day. And so prosperity consciousness is that sense and sensibility that we are more than all of what we think we are. We're certainly more than our stuff and things. We're more than the stuff and things we don't have. We're more than all of what we do have, etc., etc., etc. So prosperity, 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 what is it? It's an attitude. It's an attitude. It's an energy. It's a power. An attitude, an energy, and a power. Prosperity is indeed a spiritual practice. Have you ever thought of prosperity being a spiritual practice before? Would it be inviting for you to make it your spiritual practice now if you haven't thought of that before? I think it would be a good, whole, and wholesome idea to do that. A spiritual practice. And you know and I know when we enter into a spiritual practice, we are changed and changed for the better. We're transformed. And so it's a beautiful thing to know that this is available to us. On the other hand, there is that thing in the, by Charles Raymond Barker. And Raymond Charles Barker, rather, that was get those two things interwoven with each other. Mr. Barker, who socked it to us all the time and didn't hold his punches. And he says, listen up now, listen up. Most of the people on this planet have no idea of how glorious and how magnificent and how abundant this world is. He says, indeed, half of us, I don't know where he gets his numbers, but he says half of us are half living. We're half living beings. We're half healthy, we're half wealthy, we're half happy, we're half created. And he says, to the point that it almost seems we've accepted that as normal or natural. And he says it's so not normal and so not natural to be going around living half of anything. Half. So the call today would be, stop the halving if we're halving, and at least get into 51%, for heaven's sake. That's just a whoo-shah. I mean, it's just another percent. But just what? The power of 1%, oh my gosh, can make all the difference. All the difference. Today's about whooshing yourself up a bit here when it comes to this. And of course, prosperity is associated by most of us with money, and money is associated with prosperity. Well, not necessarily so, and yet it does play a very important part. Not the whole thing by any manner of means, but a significant and most important part. Now, I love Raymond Charles Barker's definition of money. It is God in action, it's energy. It's God in action, it's energy, and everything is energy. Money is energy, not just a piece of paper or a coin. It's energy, and it's an energy of exchange. It's an energy of exchange, and we all need it to function on planet Earth, because that's what we do. Although, mind you, between bitcoins and this, that, and the other, maybe we'll just go abracadabra and it'll be fine that we'll pay for whatever it is we need to pay. I don't, but at the moment, there's paper and coins. Okay. So, when you and I have decided once and for all that we are indeed not the source of our good, I am not my supply, I am not the source of my supply, I am not the source of my good, then maybe things will begin to ease up financially or prosperity-wise or whatever that is that we all have a thing about. And mark my words, everybody has a thing about money. Everyone has something to take care of around money. Whether it's I cannot keep a penny or I cannot let a penny go and all the various shades in between. There's something we have to do to sort ourselves out with money. Do we all understand that we're in a relationship with money? All of us are in a relationship with money. We need to create a good relationship with money. Like all relationships, we need to keep good relationships. What is your relationship with money is the question for this week. What is my relationship to money? How does money make me feel? When I hear the sound of the word money, what do I think of? What do I feel? What are my convictions around money? What are my feelings around money? What's my sensibility? What's my perception of money? Is it a comfortable feeling or not, as the case may be? Same thing with prosperity. What is my thinking, feeling, conviction around that? Is this something I think I'm in the midst of, I am part of, I'm in its flow, or I'm separate from? Like it's flowing over there, but I'm over here, and I'm wondering how I can get into the flow of it. All of that is what you and I are asked to look at this week with regard to prosperity consciousness, whether we have or haven't got it. And so what does the prosperity consciousness look like? It looks like I always know that I have enough and enough is always plenty. It looks like I understand that if I'm given up to my source and my supply, I needn't be worried and concerned and anxious the way I usually am around having enough, being enough, and having, of course, the money I need in order to flourish and to thrive. Now, some of us have a negative thing around money, that money is this and that and the other, and it's not necessarily a great good thing. And some of us have a wonderful relationship with money. We think it's a very good thing. In fact, money has a beautiful ambience when it's used properly. Beautiful energy and beautiful ambience. The ambience of money is something that you and I need to be comfortable with. So that when we go into these luxurious places and so on, we walk in there and we feel, well, I could make myself at home here and feel comfortable here. I could indeed become part of this. And not in a superior way at all, but just knowing if I wanted to, I could share in this kind of experience when I wanted to, if I wanted to. Anyway, how is it then that you and I are going to grow this consciousness of money? Well, all of the experts say the very same thing. Whether they are secular motivational speakers or whether they are spiritual teachers, they'll say the same thing. If you want to live prosperously and if you fully want to develop a consciousness of prosperity, there's only one way to do that, and the way to do that is through giving. The word giving. Now, why would that be? Why is it that you and I are not going to get away from being the best that we can be and thriving and flourishing and so on without giving? Well, blame the source of our being. We were created in the image and likeness of our source. What is our source? It's the givingness of life back onto itself. That's what you are. That's what I am. The givingness of life back onto it. It's so natural to us to give. It is just so deeply entrenched within us, the impulse to give, that it ought not to be a problem, really. So what gets in the way of it? We believe, for the most part, that we are our own source of our own good. We say God is our source. We sing God is our source, but we don't necessarily believe that or feel that. And so we're not surrendered to the abundance that is ours. We do not fully grasp that we do live in an abundant universe. that there is a ton and plenty of every good thing available to us on this plane and beyond. And that nature is lavish, and nature is prosperous, and nature is all the time giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. We can see that with nature. Your nature and mine is to be giving and giving and giving and giving and giving too. What we are the receiving area, and then we are the flowing out area of the divine substance that is always flowing into us to flow out from us again. Circulating, circulating, circulating. That's what we are. But we don't feel that. We're not identified with it. We don't recognize it. We know it as a theory. We know it as a nice theory. And we know it as, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice when I get there, if I get there? But I don't see how I can get there now. And yet all the experts say givingness is the way to a prosperous, thriving, successful life. All right then. In this adventure of faith, because it is an adventure of faith, to give, and to give with love, and to give with joy requires deep faith. Prosperity consciousness is steeped in faith. Faith in the givingness of life back onto itself. Faith in divine providence providing for us all. We are open and receptive to receiving. Faith and trust in the abundant universe and in the unlimited, unstoppable flow of spirit in our regard. Here's the thing. When it comes to prosperity, there is no holding back with our divine source. Our divine source holds nothing back. And it's never pinchy, it's never limited in what it gives, it's never budgeting, it's none of that. It's just a constant, continuous flow, full flow of all good to each one of us who happens to be open and receptive to it. Not just believe in it. You've got to be open to it. You've got to be receptive to it. You've got to say yes to it. You've got to hold up your cup of plenty and receive and know you're supposed to. Know your good is there for you and you're supposed to have it. So this givingness is a very important aspect of divine prosperous consciousness in being. And so the highest pinnacle, they say the quickest way to financial freedom, all of the experts say the quickest way to financial freedom is tithing. Now, how did you feel when you heard that word? Did you feel comfortable and did you feel, yeah, and open and receptive and so, or did you go, that's a tough one. See, words have power. Words have power, and what you think about them is affecting us in the way we move through life. Okay, tithing is the big frog to swallow for many people. Now, I'm not saying tithing is easy. It's not, because it requires from you and from me an absolute step into faith, the faith that passes understanding, the faith that knows that it doesn't know, and it's okay not to know, and not to have the reassurance that if I do this, that happens. But to know the principle, it is written, put me to the test. Put me to the test. Bring me your tithes, and I will open the floodgates of heaven to such a degree that so many blessings will be poured out upon you that you will not have any room to contain them. Put me to the test is the invitation. And the invitation stands in every moment of our lives. Give knowing that you are receiving, it says too, and you will receive. Give knowing that you're actually receiving when you're giving, and you will receive. Now, how many of us have put these things to the test? You know, how many of us are frightened to even go there? You know, I mean, tithing is a challenging word for most people. And yet, it's the most ancient custom, one of the most ancient customs there is. that I give that top, the cream, 10% goes back into the flow, is returned back into the stream of lifefulness. And that which I put out returns back to me, pressed down and spilling over. But I have to have the faith in the process for that to be the case. I can't just do it saying it's magic and it'll work. No, I have to give, not count the cost. I have to give willingly and freely, no strings attached, no attachment to outcome. I'm giving because I can, I choose to, and I want to. Now, the mind is the place where this all begins and ends. So your mind actually is the home you live in. My mind is the home I live in, and what goes on there determines how I am in life and living and what happens to me and what happens through me. So you and I are going to ask ourselves, is our mind a comfortable place to be this week as we move through the week? And what goes on there with regard to a sense of prosperity and a sense of beingness. Now, some people may be here very tight as far as money is concerned today. Some people in this room might know where they're going to pay the next bill or whatever. It's particularly for us in that state that we are asked to look at this now. There are so many stories I've read this week, it's phenomenal, about people who hadn't a button. I mean, really, didn't have a penny to scratch up against another penny, on their last legs as far as finances is concerned. And one particular woman, she was told, somebody shared with her about tithing, and she laughed in their face and said, "Don't be crazy. You're talking to somebody who hasn't got a penny, and you're telling me that the way for me to fix myself is to tithe. Tithe what? You know." And so anyway, she had that friend. The friend kept in touch with her and kept talking to her. And eventually she was so desperate, she said, "What have I got to lose? I haven't got much to tithe from, so whatever, I'll try it. I'll give it a shot." So she found $1 around the house one day, and she said, "Well, no, I don't know. 10 cents, I mean, what am I going to do it?" So she made up her mind. She laughed at the whole thing like a joke, and she took the 10 cents and she said, "Okay, I'm going to put that back in the flow of life. I am going to give the 10 cents. And then a day or two later, she had $3 and she gave 30 cents and so on and so forth. And she began to see, well, you know, there might be something to this. There just might be something to this. And she starts out and she's got credit cards up and down the yin-yang that are completely blocked out. Tons of bills, tons of stuff to pay, not knowing how it's going to happen. So as every little bit of money came in, she began to have a little notebook and she'd write down the money that would come in, and then immediately she would do the thing. She would give the 10%. She would put the 10% back into circulation, give the 10% to that which provided her with her good, and so on and so forth. And she started to go with her friend to a spiritual center and so forth. Well, within 9 months, this woman had paid all her debts. She had a job she loved, and she was in the process of putting together and starting a nonprofit organization that helped other people too, and thrives and flourishes to this very day because she stuck to it, even though in the beginning she didn't believe it at all. But there was something in her that did, you see, or she couldn't have done that. And then the other woman, who again was down on her luck as far as money is concerned, as she said, and again desperate, but really truly desperate. And she did know about the value of tithing, and she decided that's what she was going to do. And her first $3 that she had, she went immediately to the church and she gave 30 cents of that. The woman today is a multi-millionaire. She continued with the process, and kept doing it and was faithful and faithful and faithful. What is it that enables some of us to do that and others are afraid to do it? Others are afraid to do it. I won't have enough. And the first lady who started her nonprofit organization, she was saying, you know, I have had friends and people say to me, but I haven't got anything to give, and I don't have enough money to give, and I have no money to give, and so on. And she said, that's a great load of baloney. If you have $1, you've got 10 cents. If it's $3, you have 30 cents. If you have $5, you have 50 cents. Just do it. You just do it, you give it. Don't say you'll give it. And then she says there are the others that say, well, when I have enough money, I'm going to do that. I really will. I'll give back when I have enough money. And she says, no, you won't, because you'll never have enough money. And the reason why you'll never have enough money is because your consciousness is on, I haven't got enough money. I haven't got enough. I haven't got enough. And if you haven't gotten enouging all the time, you're not going to do what you say you're going to do. Give when you have it. You won't have it to give. So where do we begin with all of this? Or what do we do with all of this? And where are we with all of this? I mean, I'm speaking to the choir here because people here in our community, you're all very generous. We're naturally givers, But again, each one of us might ask, well, is there something more? Maybe I can up the ante or whatever that is. Because the more I give, the more I receive. Let me tell you, there's nothing like going beyond your 10%. Nothing like going on beyond your, then you really begin to feel affluent when you go beyond your 10% and so on. And that first lady who started her nonprofit organization said, very soon, the 10% that she was giving away was more than the 90% that she had in the beginning. She was giving away much more than what she was living on in the beginning, the 10%. And that's what you and I want. It's like people say to me, well, I have all these taxes. I say, bring it on. I wish I had a ton of tax to pay. Wouldn't that mean I'm bringing in a whole lot of money? So why would I put that in the way of my prosperity, not wanting to pay too much tax on whatever? Oh, lordy. Sometimes we're just like kindergartners in the way we think. All I'm saying to you today is you are enough. You have enough. And if you want more, there's the way for you to have more. And the only way for you to have more is to throw the hat in, give up all the worry, give up all the concern, stop thinking that you are your own source, and start relying upon the truth that sets us free. I of myself do nothing. I of myself don't do it. I just get out of the way and allow the power and the presence of the life and the abundant life that is spirit within me to do what it has promised to do. Come to me, all you labor and are burdened, and I will pick you up and lift you up, and I will give you rest. Come to me and cast all your fears and anxieties into that wonderful, beautiful, sacred heart of life itself, and let it be done. And fall into the heart and surrender yourself and give yourself up and fall into that deep awareness of true abundance. Trust the source of your being, the lover of your soul, the provider of your good, and the giver of your life. Trust. And remember, trust has to do with a feeling. If you're just thinking it, it's not enough. You've got to be convinced to the point that you feel prosperous. You're thinking from prosperity consciousness. You're speaking from prosperity consciousness. You're doing from prosperity consciousness, and you're doing it with finesse. And if it's only $1, whatever it is, you give it like you're absolutely loaded, kingly, princely loaded. And that's the way you do it. And you know that that dollar represents, in God I trust. It's written on every one. And if you give trustingly, if you give joyously, if you give from love, I assure you, there's no end to what heaven will open up and pour forth upon you and bless you in so many ways. Not just financially, but across the board, the broad board of your life in every way. Blessings and blessings and blessings. And the only thing you and I have to do is love up on our source. Honor and praise and bless and love and thank our source all the time. Because when we're honoring, blessing, loving and thanking, we're feeling good. Our energy is high. You can't be miserable when you're honoring and blessing and loving and thanking. You cannot. It's impossible. It's impossible to entertain both energies at one time. And so when you're loving up on that beautiful source of our being, you're opening up all the doors for your good to flow to and through you, to bless your life in a way you could never imagine, and then to go forth from you and bless other lives too. How wonderful is that? So I say, let us get up this week, get off the chair of conditions, get up out of that bed of inertia and rise up knowing I of myself don't have to do a darn thing. How neat is that? I don't have to do it, I just have to allow it. And so it is.